Yeah, so I think that's it on local match. And then funding needed. So in the LOI, we had it broken out between federal, state, and local. And it caused a lot of confusion because we are kind of basically taking the program consideration out of the request. And so then people were like, well, I don't know what program, and it caused a lot of questions. So for the application, we have only two fields that you need to complete for your funding request. It's the ODOT assistance needed and the local money that you're contributing. So if your project is $100,000 and you only have 10,000, that means that you need ODOT to contribute $90,000 to make that project happen. And we internally will consider our federal and state funds and potentially even transportation development credits. You know, if we need to provide additional match in order to use federal funds for the project, it just gives us the opportunity to kind of consider that versus kind of pigeonholing you into, well, I want this in federal and this in state. We might be able to mix and match it better. So all we want to know is, what do you need from ODOT? And we'll try to figure out the rest, right? But that goes directly into scalability. So with each project, we're going to be asking you, is this project scalable? And if it is scalable, then we'll say, what's the minimum funding you need to make some aspect of this project happen, and how will the scope change if the funding is reduced? And the project doesn't have to be scalable. You can say no, that it's all or nothing. But just remember that if a project is not scalable and it is all or nothing, it just kind of reduces our flexibility in terms of being able to give you something, right? If we get down to it and we have $50,000 left to allocate and your project's one that could be considered, but it's 100,000, you said it's not scalable, now we're like, well, we can't do anything with that project. We got to consider something else. So if a project is scalable, this is your opportunity to outline that to us and kind of let us know there's some flexibility in the range of funding we can give here. And helps us understand on the ODOT assistance side, what that local match is, and then how we can scale our assistance appropriately. Another new question that hasn't been asked in the past is, are other projects impacted if this project is not funded? So what that means is, if you're requesting preventive maintenance and expansion vehicles in your application, we've never really asked you to consider the projects together in the past, but now we are. So if you're requesting 5 expansion vehicles, but you're only awarded 2, we're asking you, if you're not awarded these expansion vehicles, will there be other projects in this application impacted? And in theory, you might say, well, if we're not awarded, and I should say replacement vehicles, I apologize, not expansion, replacement vehicles. If we're not awarded these replacement vehicles, then our preventive maintenance budget will increase because we have older vehicles in our fleet, which have more costs, and therefore, so it's your opportunity by us asking this question for you to help us connect the dots in terms of, listen, there's going to be a domino effect here. ODOT, if you don't do this, now this goes up, kind of thing. And I think so scalability, other projects impacted, funding, they're all very related, and they should all kind of be considered together, when you're making your requests. Partnerships and community impact. So for some project types, we do ask you if there are any partnerships that you have with other organizations to deliver the project. And we also ask you, what the project impact is. Will it increase ridership? Will it increase access? Will it expand service? What would be the impact locally if we opted to not fund the project? So we're trying to really give you that, qualitative opportunity to express why this project is important and not just have it all be, qualitative data for our consideration. project planning efforts. So, you know, we will ask if the project is included in a coordinated plan, STIP, TIP, TDP for your capital and operating plans, you know, and the more that you can root the project into planning efforts and justify why it's necessary, the better. Project milestones and outcomes as required for some project types. So, you know, this is what we're looking for. You know, how will you know that this project is successful? How are you measuring this project? You know, especially for pilot projects, you know, projects that aren't a proven concept. You know, if we're going to invest in this pilot project, how do we know it was a good investment? How will you know that it should move from a demonstration project to, you know, an actual implemented project with a dedicated funding source? So, you know, just think about that as you're preparing for this application round. Vehicle project information is kind of all on an island on its own. You know, we ask vehicle project information, we ask for mileage, trips, service hours, the vehicle type. You will be expected, if you're requesting a replacement vehicle, you will be expected to have the information for the vehicle being replaced readily available so that you can fill that in to the application, because we have to make sure that that replacement vehicle is actually disposition eligible for us to consider the request as a replacement vehicle and not an expansion vehicle. And then we're also going to ask about service types and all kinds of things. So vehicle projects probably are the most involved of all the projects, because in addition to all of the project information I just went through, we have quite a bit more for vehicle projects. So I just threw that in there to kind of give you an idea of what to expect if you are requesting vehicles. So this is kind of a matrix, so to speak, of each project type and the type of information that we will be requesting. And a disclaimer, I'm full of those today. This is a very high level summary, right, of what 98% of the information we're requesting by project type. But there will be little questions here and there that might not perfectly fit into these categories that you'll see in the funding sections, but it should be straightforward information. What we're attempting to do here is give you a guide of what to expect so that you can view this table ahead of time and know, okay, I'm requesting computer hardware. I'm going to be expected to be able to answer these questions. I'm going to go ahead and get my files ready and make sure I have all that readily available before I'm going into the application and trying to sit down and do it. And now I'm looking things up and it's taking more time. So all we're trying to do here is give you a pretty good idea of what to expect, just so you can start to get prepared. So this is just on the left side is all the project information I just went through in my prior slides. And we have a slide, or we have a column, I should say, for each project type. So this slide is going to repeat itself all the way through until each project type is represented. So I encourage you, once this presentation is sent out, to go ahead and look at these tables, find the projects that you're going to be applying for, and kind of get mentally prepared in terms of what we're going to be asking you for, and if you feel that you have that information prepared. So because slides are small, that's why I have multiple slides here, but it is the same information. The project types at the top heading just change in each slide. So you might have to look at 3 different slides to find all of your projects and what to expect. But hopefully this will be a good tool for you in preparation. So planning efforts, I do want to speak to this section a little bit. So as I mentioned, we're going to ask you in each project section, is this project included in a planning process? And you're able to indicate if it is and where it's included. And that's all you're going to be asked as you're completing the project. But as you're going through your projects and you're answering that question, the planning section is being populated based on how you're responding. So that way, when you get to the planning section, that's where we're going to have all of our more in-depth questions about the planning efforts associated with your projects so that you can answer it all in one effort. So if you're applying for operating in vehicles and this is included in the STIP, or TIP or coordinated plan, we're going to ask you all at once, where is this located in the coordinated plan? What goals does it address? Because the theory is, you only need to pull that coordinated plan out one time, right? Versus, okay, I'm going through and doing my vehicle section. Okay, they're asking me all this information about the coordinated plan as an example. I'm going to go grab it, get it. Okay, now I can put that away. Now I'm going back through my application. Oh, they're asking me again. I'm going to go get the coordinated plan, fill this in. Instead, knowing that you might have to reference documents in order to complete that section, we're trying to make it easier for you to just have to reference it all at once for all of your projects. So that's why there's a dedicated planning section, and that is where you're going to be spending most of your time actually having to detail the planning efforts and where it is and what documents and all of that. Technical assistance requests. So this, again, applies to the rural transit systems or a large urban transit system if the project's taking place in a rural area. The main key here is rural, because technical assistance requests are funded through our LTAP program, which has a rural funding source. So that's why there's that limitation there. But in the past, we have had it just kind of random throughout the year. Public transit systems just reach out to us and say, hey, we need help with service planning, or we want to do a route study, or we need someone to come in and help us with our financial records, or whatever it may be. The requests range pretty greatly, but it's difficult for us on our side to project the budget for the year and allocate the budget appropriately without kind of having some type of roadmap of the type of requests we might get. So we are now asking transit systems to go ahead and know any technical assistance they anticipate needing in the 2023 program year. And we're only asking for a little bit of information. What is the description of the need? Justifying the need, if you have a start and end date that you anticipate needing the assistance, and then if there are any partnerships or letters of support for the technical assistance. So that more applies to, if you want a transportation development plan done for your area. Have you talked to local officials on this? Have you talked to local businesses? How far have you gotten on actually determining that this is necessary? In this section, there will be some examples. So maybe you're someone who's like, I didn't even know we could request technical assistance from ODOT. There will be a description of some things that people can request from us. So maybe this is something that's going to be new to you, and you can view this section. And if you feel like you're going to need assistance, go ahead and make that request, and we can reach out to you and get more information. But like I said, we are really requesting that you go ahead and do this portion in the application for our planning purposes. Okay, so the attachment section, like I mentioned earlier when going through some of the form stack limitations, because attachments cannot be saved, the attachments are at the very end of your application. It will be the last section, and they will appear based on project type included in your application. So you will only see attachments required for who you are and what your projects are. So, make sure right before submission that you have everything uploaded and it's all good to go, and then you can submit it. But if you want to have an idea ahead of time of what attachments you're going to be expected to gather, you can go ahead and scroll to the attachment section and kind of see what you're going to be requested, what's going to be requested of you, so that you can kind of get a head start on getting those attachments together.